Hi everyone, Ash from Tech Talk. Today we're going to be looking at the Xiaomi Redmi Note 9. This was a phone that was released back in May of last year. I'm just going to have a look at it today, look at the specs, the design, see if it's still worth your money in 2021. The Redmi Note 10 has just released, so we're going to be looking at reasons why you might want to pick this one over the new one, and vice versa. So let's get to it. Okay, so here we have the Xiaomi Redmi Note 9. This isn't a true unboxing as I've been using the phone on and off for a couple of weeks, but this will just show you what the unboxing experience will be like for yourselves. So you lift the lid, the first thing you see is not the phone, it's in fact this little pouch with the SIM ejector tool and your little protective case that you tend to get with most budget phones these days, so I'll just set that aside. The next thing you'll see is of course the phone in its protective sleeve, and then with this little bit of plastic that reveals some of the specs. So you've got a 48 megapixel quad camera with a 13 megapixel in-display front camera, a 5020 milliamp hour battery which supports 18 watt fast charging, a 6.53 inch full HD display with Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection, and a MediaTek Helio G85 processor to run all your bits and bobs. So let me just chuck the box over there and let's unwrap the phone. So there we have it. That is the Redmi Note 9. So as you can see on the back, you've got your quad camera setup, which has got your 48 megapixel main lens. You've got an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and then unfortunately, which is pretty standard with all these budget phones, you get two other cameras, 2 megapixel depth sensor and a 2 megapixel macro lens. You've got a bit of 48 megapixel AI quad camera branding underneath there, and a fingerprint sensor underneath that as well. And then just to the right, you've got your LED flash. On the left hand side of the phone, you've got your SIM ejector tool. God, what am I doing? You've got your SIM tray, which also supports micro SD card support. On the bottom, you've got your headphone jack, your USB-C charging port and your speaker grill, and then on the right hand side you've got your power button and your volume rockers, and then on the top it's pretty clean. You've got a microphone and what looks to me like an IR blaster, but I would have to confirm that, I am unsure. Okay, so that's the phone there. Let me just power this one on. Like I said, I have been using this on and off for a couple of weeks, so it is already set up with all my bits and bobs on. I'm just going to go through some of the bits on it, like your settings menu and all that sort of stuff. There we go, MIUI. Let's just let that boot up. And there we go, lovely bit of Baymax on the background. Let me just pop my password in. Right, and there we go. There's your home screen of MIUI. One of the first things that I did when I got this was I went into display. Do you know, I can't even remember where it is. Either way, I went into the settings menu and I added the apps tray, which for years the Xiaomi phones lacked. So now we've got an apps tray on here, so you can have your the main screen hidden of loads and loads of apps, although you can still swipe right if you want to get to some of the others. You do have a lot of preloaded games on here, which I will probably delete at some point because I'm never going to use them all. But yeah, so luckily there's a lot of storage on this one. Speaking of the storage, you get a few different options with this. you either get a 64GB of storage model, which comes in either 3 or 4 gigs of RAM, or you can get 128GB of storage, which comes with either 4 or 6GB of RAM. So the one I have here is the 4 gig and 128GB model. If we go back onto the back to talk a little bit more about the cameras, so like I said, you've got your 48 megapixel main sensor, which does 4-in-1 pixel binning, so it shoots out 12 megapixel photos for brighter shots, especially in low light. You have an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and then your two macro and depth sensor lenses underneath. Video tops out at 1080p at 30 frames per second. And then on the front, you've got a 13 megapixel camera on the front there. Again, video topping out at 1080p. USB Type-C on the bottom, which supports your 18-watt charging, and I believe it also supports 9-watt reverse wired charging. So if you've got another phone that's running a bit low on juice, you can indeed get a USB-C to C cable to top that one up as well. So you have the MediaTek Helio G85 processor inside, which is a 12 nanometer processor. It is a bit of a step down from the G95 found in the Realme 7, and on the benchmarks it certainly does show. The Redmi Note 9 scores just over 200,000 on the Antutu benchmarks, and the Realme 7 was just short of 300,000, I believe. I think it was about 292. So there's a big leap in those two. Still pretty decent. For everyday use, you're not really going to see any major issues. But of course, like I say, it's not going to be as powerful as the Realme 7. In terms of my everyday use, I found the phone was really good. I'd never really had any major issues with the running of it. The only issue I did have is when I connected it to my car via Bluetooth and I was on the phone. I did find that it was disconnecting quite often. I don't know whether that's just an issue that I've got with mine, but yeah, that was a tad annoying, and that's the only phone that I've had issues of that sort with. So yeah, but other than that, it's pretty good all round. Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, that is the Realme Note 9. What I will do is at the end of this video, I will do a little slide of some of the photo samples I've taken with it, just so you can have a look and see what you think. What I did find is the main camera took really good photos, and when you did the zoom, which is a 2x digital crop, as you can see, again, even that one did pretty good. The only one that I found that wasn't as great, which to be honest is pretty standard for a lot of phones, is the ultra wide. The color temperature was completely different, and even when I took a photo with the ultra wide, pinched in, because of obviously only being 8 megapixels, the detail was not there. But taking a picture on the normal lens and pinching in, there was still a good amount of detail there. So yeah, again, you can't really expect much more from this sort of price point of this phone. And talking of, I paid £139 for this phone, which is just an insane amount of money. It's now available for 129. So what you get for what you're paying is very, very good. I mean, Xiaomi have always been known to put out really good value for money phones, really competitive. So if you're just someone that just wants a good phone with a really good battery, a decent camera, then you've got no reason to look any further than this. Obviously the Redmi Note 10 has just come out, which is going to have a bump up in specs in terms of the internals, probably a slightly improved camera, and that sort of stuff. I think some of those Redmi 10 models are going to be as low as maybe 180 to 200 pound in price. So it just depends on whether you're going to want the newest Redmi Note phone. Obviously the newer one is going to get longer updates, whereas this one is probably not going to get them for that much longer, I wouldn't think. So what I think of this, really good phone for the money. I think there are slightly better options. I do much prefer the Realme 7 in terms of its everyday running. It is a lot smoother to use, but that's obviously down to its more powerful processor. And that has got 6 gigs of RAM as well instead of 4 on this one. But like I said, if you're just someone that wants a decent phone, you're not a heavy user, you're going to easily get 2 days battery out of this, and you're just someone that just takes a few photos to put on your social medias, your Facebook, Instagram, and all that sort of stuff, then you're not going to have any issues with this one. So yeah, that is what I think of the Redmi 9. Let me know what you think below. If you have any comments, or if you've got a Redmi Note 9 yourself and you've had any bad or good experiences in particular with it, then yeah, drop me a comment below. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could subscribe and like on this video, I would really appreciate that too. So yeah, thank you very much for watching.